How can we use market monitoring data to make programmatic adjustments?
So a lot of the market monitoring exercises that I've seen were actually focusing on price monitoring. And practitioners, they tend to shoot a bullet in their own feet, making it harder to use the results of market monitoring, because the ambition is to collect prices information about 40, 50, 60, 70 commodities. So the time it takes to collect data actually makes it, to collect data, analyze data, make the information you're collecting out to date, hence harder to use to inform programmatic decision. The successful example that I've seen are market monitoring, which were less ambitious in terms of the scope, but we're actually going beyond just price monitoring. So to give you an example, there was a large voucher scheme in Nigeria where they were giving voucher to household, and they realized via market monitoring that the shops that were part of the voucher scheme, they were closing 2 to 3 days after the voucher distribution. Hence, they were not available anymore and not open anymore for the non-targeted household. And via the market monitoring, they realized that access to market for non-targeted household was reduced. Hence, they've been able to spread the voucher distribution over a longer period of time, giving more incentive for the shops to remain open over a longer period of time, hence re-establishing access for the non-targeted household.
Simple practical examples of using market monitoring findings to inform the program design and implementation. The first example is where we use the findings of the market monitoring exercise when we plan for cash distributions to crisis-affected people to determine the value of MPCA, the value of multi-purpose cash assistance, per households based on the SMEB. The SMEB is the Survival Minimum Expenditure Basket, which is monitored on a monthly basis. A second simple example is basically we use these findings of the market monitoring when we plan for winter cash top-up in response to the other needs or the protracted needs during the winter season of the affected people, and how cash could address these other needs. The third one is basically when we plan to cover the food needs, specifically, for example, to cover the specific food needs, then of course we should look at the market monitoring findings to determine the voucher or the cash value for these food items, of which of course came out of the market monitoring exercise.
So in addition to monitoring prices, we can also monitor other things related to how well a market functions, such as the availability and quality of the different products that are available to people who use the market, supply chain disruptions, access issues, etc., etc. And all of those things can come together and help you reassess whether the market functions as well as it did when you started your intervention, or even if it has improved over the course of your intervention. So putting all of those things together all form part of monitoring markets.
We have our market survey report, which tell us that the market price is this, the road condition is looking like this, the goods are coming from this to this. But when we start the project implementation, we discover that the 1 bag of sorghum, which is 90 kg, it is now $50, and we are giving out $30. Yeah, and the community here or the local beneficiaries, they are complaining that even the amount we are receiving now, it cannot provide the family, the whole household, with 1 bag 90 kg of sorghum. Yeah, based on this report, if we discover that in the first quarter of the project that what we are delivering is not meeting even the household need, like provide them with sorghum because the road is closed during the rainy season. Here, maybe if the donor is flexible, we can write to donor that now what we are doing, it is different, because when we did the assessment, it was in the dry season, and the dry season, all the products are brought to the market, the price was gone down, but now things change, price up, the market is not function due to 1, 2, 3 security issue or rain issue. So now the 90 kg, which is 1 bag of sorghum, it is equivalent to $50. So here, if donor is flexible, and our aim that to meet the basic need for each household, the most vulnerable household, there is many criteria for cash beneficiaries. Maybe we can try now to adjust and change the program. So this is the importance of the monitoring when we are doing the cash intervention program.
En Centrafrique, on évolue vraiment dans un contexte qui est très volatile au niveau sécuritaire. En plus, on est dans un pays qui est enclavé, où on a un système d'approvisionnement qui est complètement inégalitaire dans la zone Est et dans la zone Ouest, et donc automatiquement l'intégration des marchés s'en fait ressentir. Du coup, pour nous, le suivi des marchés, c'est quelque chose qui est capital et qui doit se faire de façon très rigoureuse pour nous permettre d'avoir le bon dimensionnement sur le montant à distribuer, aussi bien basé sur la disponibilité des articles que, bien entendu, sur le prix de ces articles sur le marché. À titre d'exemple, nous, UNICEF, ici, on est en charge de la mise en œuvre avec 3 partenaires de mise en œuvre d'un projet qui s'appelle Rapid Response Mechanism. L'objectif, c'est suite à un choc de venir en aide très rapidement à une population qui est très vulnérable. Pour cela, on peut soit faire bien entendu une distribution en in-kind, soit utiliser les coupons, soit utiliser le cash, soit faire une approche mixte. Et le fait, dans ce genre de réponse, d'avoir un suivi des marchés qui est très rigoureux, ça nous permet de complètement dimensionner le montant qu'on va distribuer, si les transferts monétaires sont pertinents, bien entendu, et si ce montant devra courir en partie ou tous les articles qu'on est censé distribuer. Un autre point particulier de la Centrafrique, c'est que nous, on a très peu de prestataires de services financiers dans ce pays. Donc, quand on va dans des zones qui sont très reculées, où le cash est pertinent, on a besoin d'être innovant et d'avoir des ressources pour distribuer l'argent. Et le système de suivi des marchés va nous permettre de créer un premier contact avec les commerçants et de savoir s'il y a assez de liquidités sur le marché et si les commerçants sont intéressés pour faire la distribution par eux-mêmes.
As Cash Working Group, we are doing monthly joint market monitoring through Joint Market Monitoring Initiative around minimum expenditure basket. Currently, we have 30 partners who are collecting data around all states and around all counties in South Sudan. We have a system. We have given them an application which is in their mobile phones, and they collect this data and then they share with us. Like we do collect dollar exchange rate, the parallel one, the official one as well, and then the commercial one as well. And then we also consider some of these trends. We normally share this data with all partners, all clusters, and then those clusters they look at we also put what we do. We put the differences in markets from the previous month to this month, and now it has been 1 year we are doing it, so we are sharing also trends of a year. So which gives understanding to the organization and clusters about those trends, and also the median and mean variations in the market prices.
So I feel that this is something that we don't do particularly well in many organizations. I feel that we tend to collect price data without actually understanding what it means. We don't look at the implications of the data. Okay, so sugar is this price today. It was this price yesterday. What does that mean to the people we're working with? What are the implications on their ability to buy their basic needs? Where is this trend going? I'm much more in favor of trends and trend analysis when it comes to things like prices, because it's those trends we have to try and understand and then think ahead as to how we need to adjust our programs accordingly, if at all. There is one tool that I really do and I would recommend, and that's the CRS market. And I would recommend it for a number of reasons. Number one, it encourages us to select a set number of items to monitor, and they tend to be a handful of items so that you're not going bananas and collecting, 20 different goods or services. So you have to think very carefully and choose a select number. Perhaps the more sensitive ones to change are the ones that people rely on the most for their basic needs. So you can identify that according to some criteria. And then within the market, it recommends that you identify a price threshold, so that when that price is breached, that threshold is breached, that would trigger then an analysis into why it's been breached, and then whether or not a management response is actually required to mitigate that any impact that may be created. So I like that. It embeds the management response within the monitoring system, and it embeds the monitoring system within management roles and responsibilities. And I like that, because often they're too separated, and that can be a challenge. I think it'd be great if we could be more creative in our monitoring of markets. We tend to only really look at prices, but it'd be very good to look at other elements. For example, are traders selling an increased diversity of goods and services? Are they employing more people? Has there been a change in regulation? Is there more information on prices? Et cetera, et cetera. So that would be great if we could do that, especially in places where we have multiple cash projects or market-based interventions, which might have a bigger impact on markets.